Welcome to the channel. Subscribe and support us as we bring you epic sci-fi and HFY stories every week. The fire crackled against the darkness, its orange glow the only warmth Marcus had felt in weeks. The ruined Earth outpost stretched endlessly around him, twisted metal beams reaching toward a starless sky like the skeletal remains of humanity's former glory. He sat cross-legged on a chunk of concrete, turning the military ration pack over in his weathered hands. The familiar weight of it had become precious now, each meal a small victory against the gnawing hunger that followed every patrol. A soft rustle echoed from the shadows beyond the firelight, barely audible over the wind whistling through the debris. Marcus froze, his fingers instinctively moving toward the plasma rifle beside him. In this wasteland, only scavengers and worse moved after dark. Something was watching him from the darkness. He could feel eyes boring into him with desperate intensity. The movement came swift as lightning. A small figure darted from behind a collapsed wall, snatched the ration pack from his lap, and bolted toward the ruins. Marcus lunged forward, his military training kicking in as he tackled the thief to the ground. They rolled across the broken concrete, Marcus's superior weight pinning down what felt like a child. But when the firelight caught her face, his breath stopped cold. Luminous silver eyes stared back at him from features that were almost human, but not quite. Her skin had a pale, translucent quality, and delicate ridges ran along her temples. She was alien, but so young, so fragile. Her chest heaved as she clutched the stolen ration pack against herself like a lifeline. "Please," she whispered in broken, heavily accented English, her voice trembling with exhaustion. "Not for me, ... for my brother." Tears gathered in those impossible silver eyes, and Marcus felt something crack inside his chest, something that had been frozen solid since the war began. He wrestled the pack from her thin fingers, but her desperate grip left scratches on his hands. She didn't fight back, just whimpered as he pulled it away, curling into herself like a wounded animal. The sound hit him harder than any enemy weapon ever had. "Who are you?" he demanded, though his voice came out gentler than he intended. "What are you doing here?" She trembled as she spoke, each word seeming to cost her enormous effort. A flash of raw emotion crossed her features, hunger so deep it had carved hollows under her cheekbones, desperation that made her hands shake, and fear that ran soul deep. But beneath it all, Marcus saw something else, a fierce, protective love that reminded him of the mothers he'd seen shielding their children during Earth's darkest hours. Around the dying fire, Marcus forced himself to listen as her story spilled out in fragmented sentences. Her people, the Zelani, had been enslaved by the same Krex empire that had once brought Earth to its knees. While humans had fought back and eventually driven off the invaders, the Zelani hadn't been so fortunate. For generations, they'd been worked to death in the deep mines of distant worlds, their children born into chains they'd never see broken. Her family had starved slowly in those endless tunnels, parents, grandparents, cousins, all wasting away, while the Krex grew fat on extracted minerals. She'd managed to escape during a mine collapse, carrying her little brother through smuggling routes and abandoned space stations, always one step ahead of the Empire's hunters. But the journey had taken everything they had. Her brother was dying now, too weak even to beg for scraps. Marcus listened in silence, his jaw clenched tight as memories of Earth's own children rose unbidden in his mind. Hollow-eyed waifs begging in the ruins, their parents lost to Krex bombardments. He remembered the way his younger sister had looked at him during the siege of New Geneva, her eyes holding that same desperate hope. For the first time in months, Marcus felt the ice around his heart beginning to thaw. He broke his ration pack in half, offering the larger portion to the alien girl. She stared at it in shock, silver tears streaming down her face. "Why?" she whispered. "Your people hate us. We're just another alien race to you." Marcus shook his head slowly, his voice rough with emotion. He'd forgotten he could feel. "Because," he said simply, "you're just trying to save someone you love. I understand that." As she ate with desperate gratitude, he saw not an enemy or an alien threat, but a sister, a daughter, a child who'd been forced to grow up too fast in a universe that showed no mercy to the weak. In that moment, something fundamental shifted inside Marcus, a recognition that pain and love transcended species lines. The next night brought a sight that nearly broke Marcus completely. The alien girl returned, but this time she carried a bundle wrapped in tattered cloth. Inside was her brother, a boy who couldn't have been more than 8 in human years, his breathing shallow and labored. His skin had taken on a grayish tint that Marcus recognized from his military medical training as the color of starvation's final stages. The child was dying, and they both knew it. The girl who had finally told him her name was Lysa looked up at Marcus with eyes that held no hope, only the grim determination to stay with her brother until the end. Marcus knelt beside the boy, his hands shaking as he checked for a pulse. It was there, but barely a flutter against skin stretched tight over bones that seemed far too prominent. He realized with crystalline clarity that the Krex Empire hadn't just enslaved Lysa's people, they had committed slow genocide, working entire worlds to death for profit. The scope of their cruelty dwarfed even what Earth had endured, and Marcus felt his hatred for the Empire crystallize into something cold and absolute. Marcus faced the hardest choice of his life as he stared down at the dying alien child. His orders were clear: report any alien presence to command immediately. The military brass would want Lysa for interrogation, intelligence gathering, maybe as a bargaining chip. Her brother would likely be classified as a security risk and eliminated. But as Marcus looked at Lysa's face, so young, so full of fierce protective love, he saw his own sister again, saw every human child who'd suffered under alien occupation. These weren't invaders. They were refugees from the same enemy that had torn his world apart. The choice crystallized with sudden, startling clarity. He chose to protect them, knowing it would likely cost him his career, possibly his life if discovered. Over the following weeks, Marcus taught them everything he knew about survival in the ruins, which plants were safe to eat, how to find clean water, where to hide when the patrol drones swept overhead. He showed Lysa how to move silently through debris fields and set snares for the mutated rats that had somehow thrived in the wasteland. Small moments of unexpected connection began to bloom between them like flowers pushing through concrete. Lysa laughter sounded like silver bells when Marcus tried to teach her a human joke, her translation mangling the punchline in ways that made it somehow funnier. He learned fragments of her language in return, the musical syllables of Zelani, words that spoke of starlight and growing things, concepts her people held sacred even in their darkest hours. She taught him a lullaby her mother had sung, its melody haunting and beautiful. Her brother, slowly gaining strength on regular meals, began to smile shyly when Marcus approached, eventually falling asleep, curled against the human's shoulder. Trust bloomed where suspicion had once lived, fragile but real. Marcus found himself looking forward to their evening meetings, to the sound of Lysa's voice and her brother's quiet laughter. For the first time since the war began, he felt like he was protecting something pure, instead of just destroying what threatened him. The Empire drones arrived like mechanical vultures against the pre-dawn sky, their searchlights carving through the ruins with surgical precision. Marcus had been expecting this. His unusual patrol patterns would have been noticed eventually, his requisitioned supplies questioned, but he hadn't expected them to find his hiding spot so quickly. He grabbed Lysa and her brother, pressing them deep into a maintenance tunnel. As the whine of hover engines grew louder overhead, "Stay hidden no matter what happens," he whispered urgently. "Promise me." Lysa's silver eyes were wide with terror, but she nodded, pulling her brother deeper into the shadows. Marcus emerged to face 3 military drones and a squad of human soldiers, led by Captain Reynolds, his former commanding officer. "Stand down, soldier," Reynolds ordered. "We know you're harboring alien hostiles. Turn them over now, and we'll consider this a momentary lapse in judgment." Marcus stood his ground, plasma rifle ready, knowing he was outgunned but unable to back down. "They're not hostiles," he said firmly. "They're refugees from the Krex Empire, the same bastards who killed millions of our people." The firefight was brief but vicious. Marcus fought with the desperate fury of someone protecting family, using every trick the ruins had taught him about cover and movement. He disabled 2 drones and held the soldiers back long enough for Lysa to get her brother clear, but a plasma burst caught him in the shoulder, spinning him to the ground. As Reynolds advanced with restraints, Lysa did something that shocked everyone. Present, she stepped out of hiding, placing herself between Marcus and the soldiers. "Please," she said, her English clearer now, after weeks of practice. "He saved us when your people would have let us die. He showed mercy when he had every reason for hatred. If you must punish someone, punish me. But let him live. He is the best of what humanity can be." Her courage in that moment, facing down armed soldiers to protect the man who had protected her, seemed to give Reynolds pause. The other soldiers lowered their weapons slightly, confusion replacing aggression in their faces. Marcus led them through hidden passages he'd discovered during his months in the ruins, paths that bypassed the main patrol routes and surveillance grids. The secret resistance camp hidden in the deep underground had been established by soldiers like him, men and women, who'd grown tired of following orders that seemed to perpetuate the very cruelties they'd fought to end. Here, human refugees worked alongside the scattered survivors of a dozen alien species, all victims of the Krex Empire's expansion. The camp's leaders welcomed Lysa and her brother without question. They'd seen too much suffering to let species lines determine who deserved compassion. As Marcus watched Lysa explore their new home, seeing hope return to her silver eyes as she met other Zilani survivors, he felt a profound sense of rightness about his choice. Her brother ran to play with human children, their laughter mixing in universal joy. This was what victory really looked like, not the destruction of enemies, but the building of something better from the ashes of war. In the quiet of the underground gardens, where bioluminescent plants provided gentle light, Lysa found Marcus sitting alone, tending to his wounded shoulder. She approached slowly, carrying a small cup of medicinal tea the camp doctors had given her. "For the pain," she said softly, offering it to him. As he drank, she settled beside him, her expression thoughtful. "You know," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "when my mother was dying in the mines, she told me something I didn't understand then. She said that the universe was vast and cold, full of species that would rather destroy than understand each other. But she also said that somewhere out there had to be people who chose differently, beings who could look at a stranger's pain and choose compassion over convenience." Silver tears caught the gentle plant light as they traced down her cheeks. "You gave us hope, Marcus, real hope, when even our own kind had given up on finding it. My mother was right, the universe isn't just filled with predators and prey. It also has guardians." She squeezed his uninjured hand gently, a gesture of gratitude that somehow conveyed more than words ever could. Marcus looked around at the impossible scene surrounding them, humans and aliens working together. Children of different species playing side by side, former enemies sharing meals and stories and dreams of a better future. In the weeks that followed, word of the underground camp spread through hidden networks across the galaxy. More refugees arrived daily, not just aliens fleeing the Krex Empire, but humans tired of a war that seemed to have no end beyond mutual annihilation. The camp grew into something unprecedented, a true coalition of species united not by conquest or treaty, but by shared values of mercy and mutual aid. Scientists pooled their knowledge, artists shared their cultures, and warriors found new purposes in protection rather than destruction. Marcus realized that his simple choice to show kindness to a starving alien child had rippled outward into something that might one day reshape the galaxy itself. In that moment, sitting in gardens that bloomed beneath the ruins of old hatreds, he understood a truth that military academies had never taught. Humanity's greatest weapon had never been their ships or their weapons or their tactical brilliance. It was their capacity to see suffering in any form, Melian or human, and choose to ease it rather than exploit it. That choice, multiplied across millions of individual moments of compassion, might just be powerful enough to heal a wounded universe. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to this channel and support us so we can post new videos every day. Your support means the world.